Dudas from underwatertimes.com.
Yes, joining us from Miami today. Hello to you, Jeff.
Hey, how you doing, Wammo?
Good, good. I thought, like we did last time, perhaps give us an update on the oil situation there in the Gulf of Mexico.
Sure. And unfortunately, it's been a little over a month that the oil's been spewing out, and finally it's starting to lap ashore in Louisiana. The latest news, they're going to try to do something else to kind of plug the top of the hole, inject some cement and some mud into it, but it's still spewing oil, so it's a pretty bad situation.
Are the American people still interested in the situation there at all? I mean, is it still making news headlines?
It's still a big story. It leads the news, and a lot of people are interested in now. Especially a lot of people worried about the wildlife. I mean, it's not just the birds and such, but there's a lot of whales and whale sharks and dolphins in the area. You know, it's a big breeding ground for whale sharks, and so they're worried about those animals. And basically, the same area as the spill is where all these animals congregate and move through. So, there's a big worry about that.
And really, no one knows when it's going to be solved.
No. I mean, this thing is just going and going and going. They put this long pipe down into it, and it's drawing off some of the oil, but it's still going. So no end in sight right now.
Okay, well let's start on our first story here about a super tongue turtle.
They're calling it the super tongue, and this is the common musk turtle. There was a PhD student was studying this turtle, and I have no idea why someone would want to study a turtle, but I'm sure he'll get his PhD now. There was a curiosity about this turtle. It was able to stay underwater for months at a time. Nobody could figure out why. Some turtles are able to breathe underwater through their skin, but they figured out this turtle couldn't really do that enough. And so, this guy started studying the turtle, and he would notice that the young would come up on the shore and grab something to eat, but couldn't eat it on the shore, and was unable to swallow it on the shore. So they started getting curious on why this might be. So they started looking closer and closer at the turtle, and they were looking at its tongue, and they figured out it doesn't use its tongue to help it eat. It uses its tongue to actually breathe, and so it sticks its tongue out in the water. And it's able to, with the water flowing over its tongue, is able to extract oxygen out of the water.
So effectively its tongue is like gills.
Which is the only turtle they've figured out that can actually do this. So, this guy, sort of humble guy out there studying turtles, actually made a pretty significant discovery.
It sounds like a very handy ability as well.
I was just thinking about that. Imagine just kind of being underwater.
Hold your tongue out?
Right. Yeah, it could come in. Aquaman could come into to use.
Yeah, I could imagine it being in a comic in the future. Actually, yeah. We love the stories about giant fish. This one about a giant herring.
Yes, and I read another story this week that sea monsters are making much more news now more than ever. And this is along the same lines. This is known as maybe one of the origins of the sea monster legend. This giant herring was discovered in this small Swedish village, and it caused quite a stir because this particular species of herring, they call it the giant oarfish, or the king of herrings, can grow up to 12 meters long, and it's the world's longest bony fish.
Wow.
This one was a little smaller. This one was 3.5 meters long, but still quite a fish. It was discovered there. It hasn't been seen in these regions since 1879, so over 130 years. Hasn't been seen.
That's a serious size, 12 meters. I mean, you normally think of whales at that size.
I know it's sort of in that size. And what's unusual about this fish is it goes vertical. It's vertical in the water column. It doesn't swim sideways, and it sort of goes up and down vertically, which is another sort of strange thing. Very little known about this fish. It's like down 1,000 meters deep is where it usually keeps itself. So not much is known about it. But one of the things I talked about a minute ago. But they think this is one of these fishes from way back in lore that would wash up and would show up on these old woodcuts and descriptions of sea monsters. But this was one of the fish that again, of a legendary fish.
Yeah, well, could go some way to explaining some of those myths from the past. Yeah.
And as it turned out, they're going to have an exhibit, I should say, and in Sweden, and a sea monster exhibit, and they're going to freeze this one and put it on display. So it's actually 130 years. The timing's working out well for their exhibition. Nice.
Finally, a bit of a shark mystery has been solved.
Yes, thresher sharks, and if you know thresher sharks, they may have long bodies. They have 2 meter or 3 meter long body, but they have their tail that's the same distance. It's like 2 or 3 meters.
Yeah.
And it was always a curiosity. What exactly is the purpose of this tail? What's it do and such? And there were reports going back, I think, to the 20s that they thought it might be used for helping it hunt, but no evidence until now. So these researchers off the coast of California decided to tackle this problem, and they towed this underwater video camera behind these baited hooks where they knew there were thresher sharks, and they had over a month they had 600 minutes of film of thresher sharks feeding, trying to catch this or grab a hold of this bait, and sure enough they figured out that they used their tail to sort of whip at things and or do this wiggle and snap at the food to stun it. And so they have video evidence of this. It's the first time this has ever been seen or ever been documented.
So the tail actually whacks whatever they're after.
Yep, and they figured out there's 2 different whacking techniques. One is sort of a wiggle, and it's almost like a whip. And the other one is where they get beside the bait, and they sort of do a side flick. And in their study, they found out that the success rate of their tail flicks 65%. So they're pretty darn good at this flicking.
I'd imagine they'd go pretty fast as well with a tail like that.
I think so. I mean, they're a fast-moving animal, and another, the only animal known to do this. So it's again a very unique species, very unique behavior.
Well, those stories you can find over at underwatertimes.com. And Jeff Dudas, we thank you so much for joining us from Miami.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Here's a track from